Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very good evening, Sunday the 15th of January 2023. Who would have thought we would have made it this far? We now, well, we're about over 4 years, we're coming 5 years in. We're still here. We're still here despite ongoing attempts to censor and silence us. That's what's taking place here, or despite ongoing attempts to censor and silence us. Because all we are doing is politically campaigning. This is a civil rights campaign. This is a campaign against tyranny. It's a campaign against oppression. It is a political reaction and response from the people of a working class northern mill town against despots that control the civic centre, who have been exposed for their roles in the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of their town's children. That is what we are, that is what we do, and that is why the police, Greater Manchester Police, until very recently in accelerated special measures, Greater Manchester Police have attempted to criminalise me, have got something going on called Operation Hexagon in partnership with Oldham Council, which is, well, it's an operation to monitor every one of you who speak out against this corrupt council. Every one of you who have so far said hello, there is a police file on every one of you. These are the actions of Nazi Germany, alive and well in modern day Oldham. Labour Party controlled Oldham, and all because we have spoken out against the grooming and gang rape of our town's children. A very, very good evening to all of you. I'm hoping that Marc Hince phones in at some point very soon, and we will get on with this evening's transmission. Of course, we are on Facebook this evening. I will edit it and also put it on YouTube for as long as it stays up on the YouTube. But I would very much welcome all of you to share, please. Share, share, share. Let's get Marc on. Just give me 1 second.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, that's perfect. We connected. So there we go. I don't know what happened there. So off you go.
Off we go. There we go. Yeah, I was just saying, you know, I was reflecting before and thinking when this journey started for myself, and it was right here, wasn't it? I came across yourself by chance, really. And you came across as a very articulate person, making the most outlandish and outrageous statements against the council and its members. And I was outraged. Not outraged because of what he was saying, because of the fact he was saying it, because clearly any right-minded person wouldn't believe it. Fortunately, the more I delved into it, the more apparent it became that what he was saying was fact. You know, which is it's an horrible thing to have to process, really.
It's a horrible thing to have your eyes opened, isn't it? I mean, I reflect on every morning, Marc. I wake up and I ask myself how much should I have done this? You know, I ask myself, should I have done this? Because I am a product. Yeah. You know, one, I was a product of the Labour Party system, Marc. I was a Labour Party member until they kicked me out for refusing to remain silent. But secondly, you know, I'm a product of this liberal world, you know, and all of that. And I look at it and I'm thinking it's left behind those that, you know, it's exploited. It's exploited the working classes, white, black, whatever. It's exploited the working classes.
It is, and these people who they despise the people they seek to represent, and that's the disgrace of it. And you know, you think back to, I mean, I'm not talking just local politics. I'm talking politics in general, if I'm honest. And you know, the self-serving that goes on, and the more you look at Oldham Council, which is what I'm interested in. I mean, you know, and the town where I live in Shaw, you know, they view you, the resident, as the enemy, and I can't get my head around it. So we'll go back to when I first came into contact with you, and you riled me enough to. I thought, do you know what? And I'll tell you how it came about. I grew up in Manchester originally, and when I was 8, I grew up in Gorton. And when I was 8, my mum and dad made a very, very brave decision to move to Shaw Crompton, to an house they could ill afford, really. But they did it because they wanted the kids to have a better standard of life, okay? And then, pretty much when I came in contact with you, my wife was talking about moving to Saddleworth or someplace like that to give our kids a better chance. And I thought, what? I thought, how can this be? You know what I mean? Is it not better to just come together and try and better our environment, better our community than run away? I've got investments here. You know, I own a home here. My children go to school here. I went to school here. I've worked in Shaw. My friends are here. Everything's here. Shaw used to have everything you'd want as amenities, and slowly over the years we've been deprived. So, you know, people often ask, who am I? You know, and I'm just a resident. I'm just someone who believes in social justice. I believe in law and order. I believe in equality. Yeah, I voted for Brexit. We'll see how that pans out. I'm not a royalist, but I believe in the union. I support Man City. Are these are things for you, for the residents of Shaw, to vote for me or not vote for me? No, not at all. That's irrelevant, because it doesn't matter whether you agree with my wider views or I agree with your wider views. I would support the same football team. It's irrelevant, because we all want, by definition, of living where we're living, a better community, a better environment. And I think one thing I've learned is politics is the problem, not the solution.
Yes.
Because, you know, these... I understand why they get into it, because, and this is one thing we as the Shaw Crompton Independents are very proud of. People vote for us; they don't vote for a Rosette, say. And so I understand these people getting into it, but that's all they're interested in, the political makeup of it. They're not interested in the reality of it and how do we get things done. So I think it was you who put me on to Paul Eric, who wears his heart on his sleeve. He loves his town, and at the time he set up Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth, which attracted me because there was no whip. Now, I've met some fantastic people through that. Gary Errett, you know, Paul Schill, people who care, people who Mark Burchell, people who really, really care. But the thing for me was, it wasn't focused enough on Shaw and Crompton. The focus has to be, because I went to see Paul Eric the day after the election, the last election, where we came close, and I said,
100 votes, Mark. That's all it was. 100 votes.
I said, Paul, the truth is, Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth didn't get me one vote. The Liberal Democrats got HAZEL GLOSTER 1,090, whatever it was.
Yeah,
that was the difference. So we came away from that, and we're still friends, and you know, and I wish them the best of luck, and hopefully we can work with them in the future. But we set up something called the Shaw Crompton Independents. Now, I must emphasise this: we are not a political party. We are a community group, okay? And we have what's known as community advocates who are supported by professionals in their field, okay? We've got people who specialise in social housing, people who are solicitors, people who work with the police, etc., etc. People who want to remain anonymous. I must stress that. Because one of our biggest ethos is we've got all these resources in the community. Instead of alienating them or ignoring them, let's bring them together. And I think if anyone joins our Facebook page and see the work we do, then we've demonstrated we can do more than what our elected representatives can by doing, not talking. And I think that's absolutely key.
What you're describing is grassroots social action campaigning. You know, that's what you're describing.
Yeah. It absolutely is that, because like I say, we think our biggest strength is our people. We put the people at the heart of everything we do. I meet so many people when we do stuff. They don't know where to go to. They go to the councillors. They get fobbed off. They feel disenfranchised in effect, and it really, really, really is a tragedy. So our strategy was simple. It was to get noticed, make people aware of how bad it is, and it is bad, and then show people the good we can do. Because people have expectations. I understand there's a gap between expectations and reality. But I don't believe people should have to lower their expectations of our elected representatives to meet that gap. I think it should be the other way around.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. We have community advocates. Lisa Nadesy, fantastic the work she does. She's a massive help, because largely with Proud of Alderman Satterwith, I was doing a lot on my own.
You were out on a limb, weren't you? I mean, you were out on a limb. I mean, I'm not going to criticise them, but I will reflect on my journey as well with them, Mark, as well as yours, you know.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, sometimes you spread yourself too thin, you know, and you can't be all things to all people in all communities. And where people have got over the line, it's because they have been representing their immediate communities and the places they know well and standing for those people. And what I think what we should have done, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it, Mark? And we've all been on a journey, but what we should have done is all stood independently and then come together afterwards, rather than try and create this, you know, because what's important in Shaw isn't necessarily, you know, of course it's important in Royton or it's important in Saddleworth, but it's the way it's articulated, it is different, and the people who, you know, and we've all started from a deficit. I mean, we've got a place where the majority of people don't vote, Mark, and the vast majority of people who don't vote because they're disgusted in those who represent them.
But the truth is, particularly the Liberals in Shaw and Crompton, they don't want people to vote. They've got their core support that they facilitate with their focus leaflets, where they're pointing at things and highlighting things but not doing things. And as far as they're concerned, that's it. They're not bothered that 70% of the
it's a strategy. No, they are bothered. They are bothered, Mark. It is a strategy. Making a more compact electorate is a strategy. Making it so that the majority of people are turned off and don't vote. You know, it's the football pitch equivalent of making the pitch smaller. And that's what these people have done. It's a strategy that both Labour and the Liberals, the partners, aren't them? So I call them partners in crime, Mark.
Absolutely.
Come on. You know,
we both know, and this is what people need to be aware of. And I find it ironic because in the last election, gone, a senior member of the Shaw and Crompton Labour Party was going round telling shopkeepers I was a fascist. And by the same, on the other hand, the Liberal Democrats were going putting in the leaflets I was Labour. So, you know, no, I'm not. I'm just a resident that wants to come together with like-minded people. The objective for them, the objective is to get elected, and that's the end of it. For us, that's a stepping stone. If we get people elected, that's where the work starts, not where it ends. And that's key. You know, we give up our time, we give up our money, we do all these things because it's for my children's benefits. It's for all of us. And I get quite frustrated when, you know, you walk around. I always ask a question. Everyone I meet, has Shaw and Crompton got better or worse in the past 30 years? Nobody has told me it's got better. Now, apathy is one thing, but action is another. So, Yeah, so that's where we are. We've got another guy who's a community advocate, Andy Wack, who MBE, I might add, I didn't know Andy, I knew of him, and then meeting him, what a total inspiration that bloke is. I mean, he's such an inspiration because of the things he can't do, not like a lot of people because of things he can. And we've got his support. We're talking to a couple of other people as well.
He's standing in Crompton for you, isn't he? That's right, yeah.
Well, at the moment, we're not revealing who's standing and who's standing where.
Okay.
We class ourselves as community advocates because ultimately that is our focus. Our focus is working within the community to benefit those and all. Okay. The election's coming up. Yes, we will be fielding candidates and we will be standing, but that will be a vehicle, not for prestige, not for our own egos, not for any monetary value or anything like that. It'll be simply a vehicle to get this town moving. And the parish council is within our sights as well, because a lot of people say we should scrap it. I'm of the mind of saying, no. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's see if we can make it work. If we can't make it work and there's no value in it, it's costing us £20 a year or whatever, then that's a different context. But I believe the local powers there and local resources that can be utilised. But unfortunately, at the moment, as everyone knows, if you're not a member of the Liberal Democrats, you ain't coming in. And that's the fact.
It's a cabal, isn't it? It's like a cabal. I don't know.
Yeah. And what was a big eye-opener was when I applied to become a councillor by co-option. So what that means is somebody council leaves or whatever, instead of having an election, they ask the people to come forward and could you sit on it? And I was leaked some shocking information, as you remember at the time.
Yeah, I shared it.
Where Louis Hamblett,
yeah,
okay, who should know what the meaning of discrimination, okay, yes. Louis Hamblett, emailing around. We have decided not to let Marc Hince from the parish council because he's not a Liberal Democrat.
He's going to rue that decision. They're going to rue that decision in
Oh well. Yeah. And then the irony, the hilarious thing, they went through a charade of having a meeting saying why I shouldn't be a member because I wasn't community this and that and the other. And they'd already made the decision before they come in the door. And you just think, these are the people you put your trust in by giving them that vote.
When I was younger, because I know there's a lot of noise about me not being from the town, and I understand Oldham enough to know it's made up of many towns. It's not one town, yeah. So I'm not from South Manchester, where I see Oldham as just one town or a chunk of Andy Burnham's Greater Manchester to be manipulated. But when I was younger, I remember Shaw as a very, very prosperous part of the borough. A town with its own identity, but very prosperous, a thriving high street, an aspirational place to go and live. Yeah. And the last few times I've been there, it just hasn't happened overnight, Mark. It's intentional strategy. And when you step back and you look at what's gone on in Shaw, same as in Royton, same as in Chadderton, these other places, what they've done is they've stripped it down on purpose to try and siphon all of the traffic towards a failing Oldham town centre that's failed. Yeah. And simultaneously what they've done is they've taken a disproportionate amount of your council tax from Shaw, from Chadderton, from Royton, from Saddleworth, all of these outer areas to prop up this failing vanity scheme that is Oldham town centre. And they're just about to go on something massive now. It'd be 50 million, 100 million before, it'd be over 100 million before they're done with this latest delusion.
Like I say, you've hit the nail on the head. That time, there's money in Shaw, okay? And I'm not saying every penny of our council tax should be reinvested in Shaw. No, far from it. We've got to be realistic, and we've got to understand that, as part of a borough, there's got to be a bit of levelling up, but we're not getting a fair deal.
No, I agree with you. There's a difference between levelling up. There's a difference between paying your fair share and more, but then at a cost where you are left with nothing and you can't even turn your own lights on and feed your own children. That's the analogy for me.
that town centre does not reflect Shaw.
No.
Far from it. Now, where we differ from the usual suspects is we don't want council handouts. Okay, if we get the parish council, we'll use that budget. But if we don't want we don't want council handouts. Okay, what we're going to do, and we've got people with the skills to do it. We're going to develop a community plan and a business plan for Shaw and Crompton, and we're going to bring in investment because that's something our councillors don't do.
And I don't mean to be rude. I don't mean to be rude to the other parts of the town, but Shaw has the wealth and the demographics to attract.
Absolutely.
To attract a thriving high street.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at other areas of the town and Upper Mill or whatever. Our vision, okay, as a centrepiece of any business plan is you need to know your demographic and you need to know where the money is. That's it. I do that for a living. I'm out of strategies. That's it. So rather than tell people what we want, you ask them. Yeah. And if you do the survey or however you manage it, and you say, right, I've got 4,000 people here who say, on the basis they would eat twice a month at a restaurant in Shaw and Italian or whatever. You've done the market research. Yeah. You're halfway there for an investor. At the moment, it's just pound shops, it's bucket shops. There's a need for that. There might be an element of that, but not to. I mean,
it's disproportionate, isn't it? It's disproportionate.
It's totally disproportionate, and they'd rather have, and that's it. It's still shops at all costs. I had a friend who came to see me, and he'd not been to Shaw for 15 years. And we had a couple of pints, as you do. And he said to me, he could not believe. He said it's like the Ukraine, is what he said. Derelict buildings, boarded up shops.
Because you came as a child here, didn't you, with your parents and all the rest. And you shared that story, and I feel it because I find it heart wrenching because everywhere I go and I see this, I genuinely find it heart wrenching. I want nothing. I don't gain from any of this, Mark. I would rather sit in a coffee shop or go to a baker's or a bookshop or something with my child and do all of the things that I'd like to be able to do in the town that I call home. But it isn't there, and it isn't there because the place has been decimated through not what you did or what I did or what any of our people did. It's been decimated through a bunch of career politicians using it as a stepping stone and policy officers who, and I find this really difficult to accept, they don't live in any of our towns. They have no interest here. It's just a pay packet for them. They don't feel what we feel.
No, I consider myself to be a good judge of character, really, and looking at our councillors. I mean, Howard Sykes is a political animal, isn't he? He's made a living out of bureaucracy and whatnot, and the people he surrounds himself with are no different in my view.
There's a civil war, isn't there? I mean, for those of us who are politically, savvy, we can see the civil war between the Hamdani and Kenyan branch of the Lib Dems and the Shaw and Crompton branch of the Lib Dems. They're not all keen on each other, are they?
No. I've never met, like I say, when you meet, when you go in a room and you see a group of friends or whatever, you can see that connection, that bond or whatever. It's not that at all. I mean, we know we've had some reports that Sam and Mark Kenyon are actually secretly supporting us because obviously, even though
say that again. Mark, you've had reports that Mark Kenyon and Sam Al-Hamdani have been secretly supporting the Shaw and Crompton Independents, against the Shaw and Crompton Lib Dems.
Yeah, that's what we've been led to believe now. Can you believe that? That shows them up for what they are: political hobbyists and career politicians. Yeah. They'd rather stick to their own ends than stick the knife in.
Yeah.
There's no love lost between them, and the problem they've got really is Howard Sykes is past his sell by date. I'm judging, you know, maybe at one time he did fit the bill. You know, maybe he did, but he certainly doesn't now.
Do you know what he strikes me as? And I don't go to the council meetings. I can only watch them on the, on the live streams, the same as most people. But he seems like he's no longer even interested. There's no passion. There's no vigor. There's no interest. He's just collect. You know, when you're, I don't mean it disingenuously, but you know when you're waiting to retire or something and you're just turning up for your last year, you know, or do your last whatever you need to do.
I think the word is stagnant.
Yes,
stagnant. I think he's stale, stagnant. I think, you know, and I think we need a bit more positivity. And now I always took the view that I would say, like you do with these people, you think, well, if they want to represent you as a community, they must have some sort of embedded moral code.
Yes, yes, we make that mistake, don't we, Mark? Yes.
Yeah, we do make that mistake, and we'll get onto that very, very shortly. I mean, well, we can get onto it now, in fact. I mean, one of the biggest things, obviously, has come to light again this week, and it's a year on, is the fact that Howard Sykes, I mean, I can't believe the words are coming from my mouth. Howard Sykes leaked personal information of a resident who had basically
they submitted a freedom of information request. Yeah.
And he's leaked their details and their questions to a politically motivated journalist.
Yes.
So not only was he wrong in what he did in terms of leaking her details, the biggest question for me is, why is he leaking that information to a known politically...
His defence was... Yeah, his defence, Howard Sykes' defence was, he sent the name and address by accident. My point has been, he should never have sent anything to that man.
No, absolutely not. And we know the person we're talking about, Neil Willoughby, is it something?
Neil Willoughby, as I call him. Neil Willoughby, yeah.
Well, interestingly, because Raji, I've got to be honest, when you get into something like this and you get different forms of information, what you do is, in my view, is you change your views to meet the facts. Yeah. You don't change the facts to meet your views.
Mark, what I've said from the outset to every one of you, and there's, I think there's about 80 people watching at this moment in time. What I've always said is make your own minds up. Have a look at the information I give you and make your own minds up. Yeah.
Well, so the tone of Neil Willoughby's articles are of such vindictiveness. They remind me of Joseph Goebbels, particularly towards the end of the war.
Yeah, when they got desperate, when the Nazis got desperate. Yeah,
but it can be as Joseph Goebbels found out.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how spiteful you are or what words you use. It didn't stop the Allied bombs dropping. Yeah. It doesn't stop the Allies coming, and he will not stop the truth spreading. Some of the things, it's how he words things like my friend Gary Tarbell, who served his country for 22 years. He calls him a low-ranking soldier. Gary Tarbell has got medals, a length of medals that most men couldn't fit on the chest.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He wasn't a lowly soldier. He served his country for 22 years, and I think he reached the rank of sergeant major or something like that. But to actually try and turn an opinion of someone by lying or distorting the truth, it's disgraceful. And what you've got to do with these situations, you've got to understand is, why is this person saying these things? What is the motivation? And I've only got one conclusion. He is acting on behalf of the political elite in Oldham.
I think so. I agree with you. It's not even a thing. So
and as Howard Sykes has demonstrated, it's not just the Labour Party he's working for. He's working for the Liberals as well.
I think so. I think he's working. I think if the Lib Dems get over the line with their 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever it is, and we manage to take some Labour seats elsewhere, and Labour don't have more than 30 councillors, the Lib Dems and the Labour Party will just openly go in coalition with each other.
Yeah, which they've done previously And not so long ago, Howard Sykes was the leader of Oldham Council. So I'll remind people of Shaw, he was the leader of Oldham Council, yet he didn't do a tap for Shaw and Crompton during that time, okay? Yeah. Every asset has been, the amount of assets we've lost of our amenities. But the thing about the health centre, it's been 30 years in the making. Now they're talking about opening one in 2024, and they said it was a fit-for-purpose health centre. I asked them what fit-for-purpose meant, and they didn't know.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? It's just political spiel. It's just cheap PR, and they're taking you all for fools. They're taking you all for fools.
Why should we, the residents of Shaw and Crompton, be made to feel grateful for something we should already have? Okay, that's how I see it. When they open it, they can call it the Howard Sykes, whatever health centre for all I care. Because that will be his mark. Because if this town, if we carry on with them, if this town needs something, get your order in now, because it'll be another 30 years before you can take a thing in it. Yeah, I don't know. So that's the reality of where we are.
Let me just bring up a comment that's come in, because I want to do this, because, you know, Councillor Dave Arnott has bravely commented. I smile because, as you know, Mark, they all watch my transmissions.
Which Dave Arnott, which member of all, because it's obviously two Conservative parties in Oldham.
The Oldham Conservative Party, Councillor Dave Arnott, from Royton North.
All right.
Lewis Quigg stood in Crompton and ran the Lib Dems very close. He did. So I would suggest to Dave Arnott and the Oldham Conservatives, they didn't stand in Shaw when you stood, did they?
No, and look, whether that was useful to me or not, I don't know.
I don't think they could get but it doesn't matter.
I
would say to Dave Arnott and the Oldham Conservatives, if our common enemy, and this is me, Mark, not you, if our common enemy is the Labour Party, yes, and the Lib Dems and the coalition, then please, Councillor Dave Arnott, Councillor Lewis Quigg, don't stand in Crompton, or do what you did in Failsworth, which was put up a paper candidate in Failsworth, Mark. I don't know how well you followed what they did in Failsworth. They put up a couple of paper candidates, so you couldn't even, we could hardly speak a word of English. So, if we are going to play these, move these pieces on a chessboard, my advice to Councillor Arnott is don't stand. The Conservatives shouldn't stand in Crompton like they didn't stand in Shaw. Leave it open and let you fight the Lib Dems, because in 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, no matter how close the Conservatives may have come in Crompton or Shaw, no one's took the Lib Dems out, have they? For as long as I remember, the Lib Dems have controlled Shaw and Crompton.
Look, my viewpoint is that I've got some real, I've got friends who are Conservatives. I've got friends who are members of the Conservative Party, believe it or not. On the national issues, we'll never agree. Certainly in the current climate of where we are. But that's their viewpoint, and I'm entitled to mine. That's the world we live in. But in terms of Shaw and the core Conservative vote in Shaw is, which the Liberals have tried to kid people, Marc Hince, Labour this, Labour that. But the truth is, the Conservatives have no chance of winning in Shaw. It's not a Shaw area.
No.
And I'd say likewise with Crompton. I think the Conservatives know, if Howard Sykes and the usual suspects get in, and I'll go through them shortly, the character of the people you're being asked to vote for, then you might as well, it might as well be Labour. And what I will say is, and this is what hurts me the most, they are Oldham all these whoever the councillors in Oldham and the council, they are not Labour in action or method or whatever. Yeah. So if you're a Labour supporter and you're thinking of voting Labour because of your Labour principles of whatever socialism and no, these people aren't.
Mark,
just wear a rosette.
I'm a socialist. I've always described myself as a socialist, but these people do not represent any values of the Labour Party I was raised to believe in, not. And I pounded the streets of this country asking for votes for. These people are nothing like that.
No, this is a socialist council you know, like as Sean Fielding used to pretend he was, you know, that have 90% of the bin men on 0 hours contract.
Yeah, yeah.
How can that be? Yeah. How can that be? Yeah. No, just the more I think about it, the more infuriated I get. So, like I say, what we do in Shaw for the benefit of Shaw will be for the wider benefit of Oldham, because we're removing people who are guilt by association, who are part of the problem, not the solution.
Well, you've got a husband and wife team, haven't you? You've got the husband and wife team of the Glosters.
The Glosters.
Yeah. Tell me more. Tell the people more. You know, because you've been campaigning and living there. You know.
Yeah. I don't know them personally. I know people who do. I know people who've worked alongside. Former, I think he was an inspector or something in the.
He's a traffic cop. He was a traffic cop. Yeah.
Traffic cop. Yeah, yeah. You know, not. It's not for me to say, because, like I say, but I never hear any good news, any positivity. I mean, we'll get back onto the council meeting, which was the community meeting, which was.
Yeah, the meeting last week. Was there not a meeting last week? Yeah, in Shaw.
Yeah. So one of the things, obviously, curiously, we wanted to raise to Howard Sykes, who just wasn't there.
Mysteriously, so this was after my transmission saying it's a year, and the Howard Sykes and refreshing people's memories. Yeah, and the meeting was the day after or 2 days after.
Yeah, so Howard Sykes was conspicuous by his absence, but we still have the. So I obviously asked a question regarding the outcome of his self-referral regarding the data breaches admitted. And let's just reiterate what he'd done. Somebody had put in a freedom of information request asking a specific question, which should be confidential. It should be between the council and that person. How Howard Sykes has got hold of this anyway?
The paperwork from the council says it was policy to share freedom of information requests with the leaders of the political parties. That is actually a data breach in itself. That's a data breach.
In itself,
that's a data breach in itself.
Here, have a scan of this. Yeah. Here, have a scan of that. Yeah. And then the fact that he's, not only has he done a data breach, he's leaked it to just Google Neil Willoughby.
It's a malicious blogger. Malicious blogger is what comes up. Yeah.
He's going to use that information to personally attack this person or whatever. I mean, I'd be woe betide if they went down that road with me, because it'd be illegal. I'm sure. But so anyway, getting back to the
meeting.
Thing, the meeting. I asked the question. Oh, sorry, Mr. Sykes, Councillor Sykes is ill. I said, well, I didn't know that, but the question's still valid. Oh, we know that anyway. So, Chris Gloucester stood up to the mark. He said, I'll answer that. And then he went on for 5 minutes about how the Liberal Democrats, investigation. I'm obviously not interested in the Liberal Democrats, and nobody is. And he said the Liberal Democrats. Investigation found him not guilty because the people complaining weren't Liberal Democrats.
So you've got to be a Liberal Democrat to be a victim of crime by a Liberal Democrat.
Yeah, words for words of what he said. He was trying to deflect. Well, anyway,
this is a former copper. This is a former copper. Yeah.
Obviously, with that clean bill of health from the Liberal Democrats, we're all reassured, aren't we? Yeah. But he then went on, and this was the weirdest thing, because I think he started talking, and then he realised what he was saying was digging himself into it. He said that Councillor Sykes had tried to refer himself to the Council Standards Committee, but was unsuccessful. And then Chris Gloucester said, I then contacted the Council Standards Committee, and we therefore got a judgment that Howard Sykes didn't have a case to answer. So when I pointed out to him that actually, as far as we're aware, there was no investigation and no outcome, which is something we'll be seeking.
Well, why was it not announced? If that was the case, why was it not announced?
Well, it'd be all over the Oldham Times, wouldn't it?
Yeah, why was it not made public that the Standards Committee had met and decided that Howard Sykes had done nothing wrong in leaking the private data, the name address of an individual that he would have known that the malicious blogger would have then used to attack, harass, intimidate and attack. It is no different, and I said it this morning, Mark. It is no different, in my opinion, than the malicious blogger recently claimed I'd come out gay. And he'd done it in the lead up to an election in one of his articles. I went to the police, and it's an ongoing case with the police who've been caught red-handed in criminality, by the way, in the way I've done it, and I'll do that another day. But it's the equivalent of some Islamist organisation being sent my name and address with my photograph, from a councillor or the malicious blogger, saying he's gay and is a Christian convert. Go and get him, is the subtext of that, yeah? And Howard Sykes would have known full well that sharing that information, what was not being said there, but implicit, is you have the details to go and get them. You have the details to go and attack. That's what that was, Mark. Yeah. This is, you compared it to Goebbels, and that's what this is. The politicians are leaking information of members of the public to those who would do those members of the public harm.
This is why I go back to particular our core belief in terms of it's the politics that's the problem. It's not a state. It doesn't. They're playing a game. They're playing it's an industry for them.
Yes.
And that's not just the councillors, it's council officials and, high up ones, I'd say, not, your chief executives who make a living out of spin and...
Well, I mean, I've not spoken to you, what do you make of a chief executive being hired on a temporary contract, which clearly limits the field? You're a man of industry, yeah? You work in the private sector. If something is advertised on a temporary contract, it clearly limits the field of those who'll apply for it. And then, when he gets to the job, very quickly, there's some secret agreement between Howard Sykes again, Arud Shah was leader of the council, and Graham Sheldon, the Conservative, to give him to basically make it a permanent contract through the back door. Yeah.
This is a big eye-opener that I've had in terms of the quality of councillors. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful, because there's no qualifications, there's no application process that you would have in in the private or public sector when you're applying for a job. It's you get more votes, you're in. Now, a lot of these people, no disrespect, maybe don't have the skills and, to run a council or whatever, and they're heavily reliant
on the officers,
on people like this who are skilled, absolutely skilled, in basically not doing what they should be doing. Should be facilitating councillors to make the community better through the council. It's all about spin, distraction, politics. And we know Howard Sykes has a direct line to him, no different to the leader of the council, and the same with the solicitor Bentley, is it?
What you just brought up there, I find really interesting, because as watch anyone, and this is why they prevent people going to public meetings. Isn't because they're disruptive. They've done all those things because they want to hide what they, the decisions they make, because we've brought to attention things they've got away with forever. But the videos that they tried to take down, then had to put back up because of a national outcry, not just a local outcry, a national outcry. Every full council meeting, you can clearly see the mayor, and it's not this one, just this one, Elaine Gary, from Failsworth, the one before her and the one before her and the one before her, They are schooled through where the chief executive sits on the left, the borough solicitor sits on the right, they whisper in her ear, and they're pulling the strings. Anyone who watches those videos, you know, those live broadcasts, nothing to do with me or you, can see, you know, who's really in charge. Yeah.
I mean, I've learned this from my professional career. If you've got a problem, you highlight it, you address it, and you find the root cause and you address it. What these people do, they bury it, they hide it.
And we've not spoken since, have we? I mean, we've had the odd exchange and stuff, but we've not had this sort of exchange for a while. I mean, since we last spoke, and that
solves nothing. That solves nothing because and like I say, by not addressing it, by kicking it down the road, burying it, or whatever, they make the problem worse.
They do. I agree with you 100%. And when you were just 100 votes short last time, I was genuinely gutted because I was looking at it thinking, this man single-handedly, I know he pulled a team around you, but single-handedly has took the fight to the Lib Dems in their own backyard. And the reason why you got those votes were because you were of that community and you came within touching distance. And now, instead of giving up, you've rolled your sleeves up, you've gone and got a bigger team, double down on what you do well, and you're going for it again.
Like the biggest, I mean, we found this shortly after last May, with a very small group which we've grown, the Shaw Crompton Independents. And like I say, my initial journey was to get noticed and then highlight how bad things are, because people become immune to it. You know, when your town's slowly disintegrating, it's not the same as waking up in the morning after the blitz, is it?
No.
See it.
It's crept up on you. Yeah.
So and then what we've focused on, and please join our Facebook page. And you know, you can see what people, we're fully transparent. You can see the work we do, how we can help. You know, we work with housing associations, we work with amenity suppliers, we work with solicitors, we work with all these things to get residents. You know, things that you can do as a, there's nothing to stop the councillors doing these things, because the amount of times we've come across people. Well, I went to our sites and he sent me a letter saying, he's passed it on, or there's nothing to do with the. I mean, we had an issue with, I can't go into detail because we have to sign a compromise agreement in terms of confidentiality rather. And it was about United Utilities. Some people weren't on the water mains, and United Utilities wanted something like £8,000 to put them on. They'd gone to our sites and said it's nothing to do with Oldham Council, this. But we contacted United Utilities and worked with them to come to a satisfactory conclusion. Simple. It's about, and the biggest problem we find is residents are complaining, are making complaints to the people they should really be complaining about, and that's something we come up daily. We even got the chief executive of First Choice Homes to come to Shaw from Bath, I think it was, to come to Shaw to be part of the meeting with local residents about antisocial behaviour. And we got First Choice Homes to implement a sensitive let policy. That means that rather than stick a drug user with people next to an 85-year-old person with, you know, I used to say at the time, you know, these, because it's Oldham Council's responsibility as well, main social housing, and they just have this policy of putting anyone anywhere. So you're putting the lines with the chickens. And it's so we've worked with that. We've had a massive result a couple of weeks ago. There's a housing association called Places for People. We've got quite a few houses in Shaw.
No, I know them. I worked with them a long time ago. I think the big offices were somewhere near Old Trafford when I worked with them a long, long time ago.
Yeah, they've got some houses. They've not done a tap with them. The windows were a mess, blah, 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 mould and whatever. And all we did, it was so simple. We just wrote to them because they had a property management firm. And you know how these property management firms work. They say, right, we can save you loads of money by not doing repairs. That's how they do it. So I got onto them and I said, look, by the power of LinkedIn, I'm actually connected. I managed to connect myself to, I can't believe they have one, but a director who is head of customer experience. So I sent him an email and said, "Oh well, this is our experience, etc., etc." Now they are replacing all doors and windows.
But you know, so what you're explaining or what you're describing isn't difficult. You've just got to care enough to do it. You've got to care enough to do it.
You've got to, you know, and this is the team we've built. We've got people who've got experts on that, and we're quick learners at the end of the day. People feel, you know, undervalued. I talk to people and half of them don't even know who our councillors are, which is just unbelievable. Yeah, but the Liberals in Shaw rely on a certain demographic.
Well, I put something up last week. They've got 1,000 votes guaranteed no matter what, you know, and it doesn't really change. You know, they've got 1,050 votes to 1,100 votes, and you need more. It's as simple as that. You know, you need to get more.
Yeah.
We'll get them. I think you will. I genuinely think they will. Yeah.
We obviously it's a very weird one, Shaw and Crompton, because like I said, Shaw Crompton, High Crompton, different areas in some respects. So, like, you know, we're looking at that. I mean, what the people in Crompton need to realise is Shaw Town Centre is their town centre. You know, it's not Royan, it's not Werner, it's Shaw. So the benefits we do are the benefits for all. I mean, we've got Louis Hamblett, who, like I say, I've discussed about his untrustworthiness and deviousness. Diane Williams, who thinks it's okay to personally insult members of the public at public meetings. Yeah, you know that. And then Dave Murphy. I mean,
he's a special one. He's a special one out of all of them. I think he's the special one.
What Dave Murphy won't remember is I used to live in his ward, and I remember having a conversation with him about they were talking about building some houses on what used to be the old brickwork. Anyway, and he came across as very caring, very articulate, etc., etc. And yet, the more I've met him at this level, the more disappointed I've become. I think, as everyone knows, there is a current councillor who's on bail for an alleged rape accusation.
Repeated bail. Repeated bail. I think he's been bailed now 4 times or 4 times.
So you would have to assume that the police don't think he's a threat, because obviously they bailed him. Okay.
Yeah.
They'd remand him if he was
they'd have done what they did to that Manchester City player that recently got cleared. Yeah, Mendy.
Yeah. So Dave Murphy, in a recent council meeting, stood up, and said, "Shouldn't this councillor be suspended?" And I'm thinking, you know, is this a safeguarding issue? Because clearly, what's he saying? He's going to rate councillors? I don't know. But he was grandstanding.
Yeah.
Okay, because as far as I'm concerned, you're innocent until proven guilty. And if he's guilty,
thank you, Mark. As a man who's in court on Tuesday, and this travesty's been going on for 18 months now, thank you.
Well, if Dave Murphy wants to get on such a moral platform, perhaps he'd like to condemn the actions of his mate, Rod Blythe.
Yes.
You know, which he's never done. What I will give you an update on that is the political hobbyist Mark Kenyon, who can smell an opportunity. Actually, after 48 hours of Facebook deliberation with myself, is the only Liberal Democrat who's actually gone on record as saying he condemns the crimes of Rod Blythe.
And do you know why? Shall I share with you why? Because apparently he is one of only 2 Lib Dems who were not councillors at the time Rod Blythe was a councillor. It's easy, isn't it, when I wasn't there? It's like Amanda Chadditon's defence was, I was 4 years old when Shabir Ahmed was raping children. I'm like, hold on. The fact that you were 4 years old doesn't matter. You know, that what matters is that you block the subsequent inquiry. So him condemning, I mean, all I've asked for, Mark, and I'm not political grandstanding here at all, as someone who spent my life working with children and seeing how these sexual predators exploit positions of power and influence to access children. Yeah, because that's what they do. That's what they've always done. You know, their methods aren't complicated. Rod Blythe was a Shaw councillor for over 20 years. A freedom of information request, a councillor saying it's not in the public interest. They were forced to respond to it by a tribunal. I had to take it to a tribunal to force to get them to respond. And their response is, it's not in the public interest to know which schools, youth groups, etc. Rod Blythe sat on the committees of, through which you could have access children and young people. How can that not be in the public interest?
Well, it's a contradiction, isn't it? It's as simple as that, because you would expect any sort of follow-on investigation to identify them exact things you've just stated. Yeah. You know, I just don't get this. All they would have to do, and our sites would have to do it more than anyone, consider his relationship with Cyril Smith. Yeah. Is just come out and just say, look, the crimes are absolutely abhorrent. You know, I didn't know, and I condemn him. And that's all I want. And that's all I want. The leader of the Liberal Democrat to stand up and say the crimes are abhorrent, and I didn't know. They think that by not stating it, they're not compromising themselves politically. But the truth is, this isn't a political issue, is it? No. It's a human thing. Yeah. It's like anything. They don't. Everything they say, everything they do is politics first. And that's the saddest thing of all. You know, they have to hide behind that rosette. They have to check it. The parish council. I mean, the people they've got on it. It's a circus. You know, and it breaks me out to say that, really, because you've got a town clerk there who puts 100% effort in, and you're just looking at the quality of people who are, you know, it needs to change. We've got a real opportunity with that parish council, because £100,000 a year, we as a community could decide where it goes, and it's not spending £9,000 on litter picking or £14,000 on a CCT system. It's about developing schemes within the community, supporting community groups. It's about invigorating our town and its market. Last week, it was Thursday. I was in Shaw on Thursday. It's market day. I remember your market as a child. It was something. It was something special. It was, and it's markets. I put a post on it on our group. Markets have been key since the dawn of humanity. Now, these things have to evolve and change and blah, blah, blah. But just to see it decline to nothing, to nothing, absolutely gone. We're a market town with a market street and no market. It's just another example of disintegration. Okay. And like I say, it just... The community deserve better. And you've come forward, haven't you? I mean, you've come forward. You've bravely come forward. You've been harassed. You've been abused. You've been insulted. You're still here. Your votes are increasing. Your votes are increasing. And now you're on the verge. I mean, as a political observer, an analyst, if you want, Mark, I'm looking at you and I know, you know, and I'm looking at the authenticity. You know, people are listening in and putting the comments up. They can see how much you care about the place you call home and how much you're willing to stand up for it and be the difference that your community deserves. And you guys are on the brink. I honestly think you guys are on the brink, and just... I'm directly, you know, if anyone, if you're from Shaw Crompton or you know people from Shaw Crompton, I'm directly appealing to you, because I'm not asking you to stand as a councillor. I'm not asking you to put nearly £5,000 of your own money into, you know, the things that you're never going to see a return on, which is fine. You know, if you can't come out and deliver leaflets and help us when the time is right, whatever, that's fine. I'm just asking for one thing. I'm just asking for you to give us an opportunity, because it's not working and it's not getting any better. It's only getting worse. We cannot stick with the same old, same old. So next May, it'll just take, if we stand 3 in Shaw and 3, we'll be putting forward 14, I think it is 14 or 15 parish councillors.
Oh, have you got a full suite for the parish council? Have you got a full suite of candidates?
At the moment, we've got a majority, should we say, but we want to put a full suite now. Now, if you're currently on the parish council and you would consider restanding, then contact us, because let's face it, there's a lot of people on that parish council who, shall we say, have been encouraged to join the Liberal Democrats.
Yes,
and that's a, we know that. So we understand these people, the people with liberal views. Well, liberal views is probably the wrong thing, but allegiances to Liberal Democrats in terms of their national voting patterns. But put it aside, because these people who are currently, who are currently standing, they get massive resources, massive help from the Liberal Democrats with the focus leaflets and whatnot. And it's the same old, tired old message. Hazel Gloucester, in one of the last ones, she put, you may remember me from a planning issue a number of years ago. I'm thinking,
wow.
Yeah. I'm thinking,
and she doesn't even see anything wrong with that. She doesn't even, what's worse is that she doesn't see anything wrong with that.
When I meet them, we try to be courteous, although Diane sometimes struggles with that, with personal insults and whatnot. Diane Williamson is they hate me. They utterly resent me, because they're looking at me thinking, I get that, who are you?
Yeah.
I'm a resident. That's who I am. A great one was at one community meeting, and I asked a question, and Chris Gloucester went off on one, and he stated, "This is our meeting."
Chris Gloucester stated it was their meeting, not the people's meeting,
I said, "Sorry, Chris, it's a community meeting, and we're the community."
Wow.
I've got to spell it out to him. Another one which I'd like to bring up, because we're not.
You're just describing arrogance and contempt of the community.
No. Another example was, we haven't got much heritage left in Shaw, and we are where we are with it. But we have our only Grade 2 our Grade 2 listed Central Shaw site, the St Paul's Church, which, come what may, it's been left to rot and ruin. It was derelict.
Well, Howard Sykes was a member of the congregation, wasn't he? He was a member of the congregation, of the committee of that.
I don't know that. I don't know.
Yeah. So he was involved.
I didn't know that. I didn't.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's obviously it's been bought to be repurposed, and we were concerned about whether it be repurposed.
But this is my issue first and foremost with that, because I had a lot of people contact me, and I think what's happened to it is wrong. By the way, Mark, I've been very clear on that. The way it's been.
We are where we are.
Yeah. But what my position on it is, if it was a building in the community where I was raised and it had gone up for sale that way, there would be a community campaign to raise the money for it. There would be a right to asset transfer, and my councillors would have been leading that campaign.
Absolutely. Look at Gorton Monastery.
Yeah.
Look at the Prudential building in Oldham that's falling over. And yet we are where we are with that. Anyway, we are where we are. So what our plan was to work with the new owners to say, look, what's your plan? Let's get buy-in of the local community, because there's a lot of fear and rumours and the usual
and the Bangladeshi community is small in Shaw.
Yeah.
It's long established in Shaw and has lived relatively harmoniously alongside the majority neighbours. And I'm really disappointed in them, of their unwillingness to understand how they've been embraced by the wider community.
I went and knocked on his door, the secretary.
Yeah.
Nice chap. Yeah. The secretary of the mosque in Shaw, and he briefly explained what we wanted to do. I said, fine, here's the details, contact me. In the meantime, we got reports that some further demolition work was happening on the site. So we put it out there on Facebook. I contacted planning enforcement who said, well, leave it with us, like they usually do. And then Chris Gloucester took to the local media to say we were mischief making. Now,
yeah, he tried to make it out as racist.
I mean, what's implying we're causing racial division? I don't know. I just don't get. Anyway, it turns out that we were correct, and they had done some illegal.
They were demolishing parts of the building they shouldn't have. Yeah, that's what they were doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we pushed for it to get enforcement. That's what it is. And people, you understand.
So you're being called. So let's be clear. You're being called mischief makers, and I'm using that term politely for protecting the history and heritage of your town.
Yeah. I mean, if my neighbour gets planning permission to build a garage, and then he says, "I'll tell you what," and I'm just going to throw up a 3-story monstrosity. Yeah. I'm not mischief making when I highlight that, am I?
No.
And this is the thing. So that's where we are with that. We'll continue, to do our community work. We'll continue to bring people together, and we'll continue to spread the message, because everyone has got a stake in this. If you live in this town or you work in this town, I include business holders in that, and more so. If you've got a stake in our town, then you're part of the solution to get this thing going forward, because it's easy to drive around Shaw to go home than it is drive through it, because it's absolutely heartbreaking.
No, I feel it. I feel what you are describing, because that's what I feel when I go to Oldham. I was raised in Oldham. I used to walk up Rochdale Road or Middleton Road from Westwood. I used to walk up that hill past the college, sit at the bench at the top, cross over, and carry on. And I remember, 10 paces to my dad's 1 pace, running to keep up with him.
Yeah.
And he'd go to the market, and I'd come back helping him carry the carrier bags, and it was a thriving market. Oldham was a thriving market town, and it was the envy of all of the surrounding towns. And these, I'm not going to swear, Mark, but these people, I don't think they ever valued what we valued, because they weren't one of us. It's as simple as that. They never valued what we valued.
They're there for rinsing, aren't they? I mean, you get these people who come in and selling these ideas, and you just follow the money. That's the motive, isn't it? And let's revamp this and mortgage that, and the amount of assets selling off that they've done. I mean, once you sell something, it's gone.
Well, why they're doing it, because they've not got the money, and now they've opened this bogus consultation. I'm sure you've seen it, where they finally admitted that they need to make at least £40 million worth of cuts, and it's some bogus consultation without even telling you where the money is currently being spent. So they want your ideas on where to make the cuts without telling you where they're spending the money.
There are influencing factors, and they'll be quick to turn around and blame national government, won't they?
Of course they
will. Which is, but that that's just deflection. Yeah. Because you look at how they handle the assets and the revenue that they've got, and I don't know. I think you'll know better than me, but maybe 40% of all revenues paying off loans, and
it's a massive bit on loans. Even more so on overpaid pensions for the overpaid, people, executives. Yeah,
you couldn't run your household on that kind of revenue, on that kind of balance, could you? It's. And this is it. And then another person will come in, and it'll be something else, and they're just stacking debt, and then these ludicrous things like you've got councillors jumping up and down for joy because we've got some new bins installed, smart bins, something like £1 million or something it costs, with general running costs, because the smart bins will need maintaining, they'll need engineers. So we're waiting on for an answer on how much that, but you're asking them questions. How much do these bins cost? Okay, what's the service charge? We'll have to. Hold on a minute. You've just been in the paper saying how great they are. You don't know the answers to these questions. That's the core thing. What's it cost? What's the value? Yeah. That's it's as simple as that. It's not a vanity thing or whatever.
One of the things that Aru Shah went on about while she was leader, and I'm no fan of hers, but this I just found really bizarre, because I knew the road well. When you come up St Mary's Way, when you come off Rochdale Road and you do the left up to us to go to the back end of Oldham Town Centre where the car garages are, opposite the college and what used to be Grange School. At the top, they were going on about they've created this special traffic light system for bicycles, you know, and it's cost, you know, it'll cost $1 million, maybe more. And I'm thinking, in all the years, it's a steep road, Mark, and I'm thinking, who's ridden? I can't remember anyone riding a bicycle up there. It's not a bicycle riding town, you know, because of the hills and the weather, you know.
We've got a massive problem in Shaw and Crompton, you know, with speeding and. I mean, it was a serious.
I've commented on your post. It was horrific just before Christmas. That poor woman.
Well, there was I mean, there was that one, but there was one yesterday as well in the centre of the Shaw, and I'm you know, we've raised this at community meetings. Now, at first they're saying, oh well, we've tried, and then they're saying they're going to try again, you know, speeding cameras or whatever. I asked the policing team, could we empower local people to take on that mantra? You know, I've seen it in other areas of the country. They're saying that's not a GMP thing, blah, blah, blah. Another thing, I mean, this is, just to put it into context, this is another massive problem we've got in Shaw. It's like the Wild West in terms of shoplifting. Now, unbelievably, the police in Shaw, we've only got one police officer and we've got a few community support officers who have very limited powers.
Will criminals become prolific when they know they can get away with it? You know, there's a correlation, isn't there?
But we were discussing that. Now, a lot of these businesses, you know, as far as we're concerned, it's only going to be a matter of time before someone gets stabbed.
Yeah.
Some security guard or whatever. Dave Murphy at the last council the community meeting, when we brought this up, he decided to put the boot in and blame the victims by saying, well, if you don't have a security guard, what do you expect the police to do? So
Councillor Dave Murphy of the Liberal Democrats, on concerns raised about the prolific rise of shoplifting in Shaw, blamed the victims of the crimes
for not having a security guard. The fact that businesses can't afford the shoplifting, let alone a security guard, seems
and
to
these
be,
are
you know,
businesses
beyond.
that are paying business rates. You know, let's be clear. These are businesses that are paying their taxes, you know, to be...
Yeah. I mean, we also have to remind Councillor Dave Murphy...
You've got it wrong, Mark. I've got it somewhere. I've got his phone number. No, I haven't got his phone number, but I can get his phone number. I'll give Irish him a call. You should have one of those, you know, street patrols in Shaw.
Yeah, well, I mean, where does it end?
Yeah.
But, yeah, so he sort of saying that, and I was quite taken aback, to say the least. We had to remind Councillor Dave Murphy that, you know, shoplifting is a criminal offence in the United Kingdom, and business rate players and residents expect the law to be upheld. You know, we don't just let it go and there we are. One suggestion we've got, and we were going to be writing to the Chief Constable, because we did have 2 community police officers. We've now got 1. We want to know where the other one's gone. But we feel that instead of them, you know, being based in Oldham or wherever they're based these days, I don't even think they're based in Oldham, are they? Is it Chadderton or Ashton? I don't know. But we want our community policing team to be based at the parish council offices in Shaw.
What a novel idea. What a novel idea. Wanting local police officers based in local police stations.
Yeah. This is just my reasoning. Our reasoning is...
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at the, at the stupidness of taking it away.
You move your resource to your problem.
Yeah.
Yeah? That's how it works. Yeah. That's how, whatever it be, in operational strategy or whatever. That's what you do. And, you know, hopefully they'll take that on board. We've got parish council officers there we're all paying for. The PCSOs spend most of the time in there.
Use it as a hub. Use it as a hub. Yeah.
Yeah. A community hub. How about that? Yeah. And that all feeds back into this thing about the parish council. You know, we had, when going back to this meeting where we first tried homes, I contacted the parish council and said, "Can we use your offices?" And they went, "No, because we're the Prince's Trust are using them." And I thought, well, it's
Yeah.
fair enough.
Mark, they don't like you. They don't want you any near any of it. And if they had their way, you would have moved. You know, I'm surprised they're not got in touch with your wife and said, you know, and given a list of discount houses you can buy in Saddleworth just to get rid of you.
Well, the funny you should say that, because I did put a planning application in for some work on my house, and Chris Gloucester mentioned it. He picked up on it. He says, just like your planning application, blah blah blah. And I just thought, oh, what about my planning? What's special about me? You know, just should it not be
a resident of Shaw wanting to live in Shaw and wanting to improve his house is not, you know, isn't necessarily something to, and the context, the comparison for me is the Andy Burnham scheme, which is, you know, the places for people or whatever nonsense it's called, where he wants to build on all the green space. You know, where's the objection there? You know, where's the these people are small-time party politicians, and you're right with the way you started this, Mark. The problem with Shaw, like in other parts of our borough, is the politics. The politics is the problem. You know, it's
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the look. I mean, I'm all for rejuvenation and development. Okay, so we've got the former Littlewood site, which is currently being bulldozed, and they're going to build several hundred houses on it. Fine, great, but our infrastructure and our amenities have to reflect that. You know, an allocation of that council tax money which they're going to generate, which will, you know, should come to Shaw. There should be some sort of, you know, community bidding process. I mean, this is the thing about the health centre. To get me onto that, because it's relevant, is what is the criteria to get a new health centre? Is it a community bidding process? Is it a business plan? No. Or is it you just wait your turn? Because I want to know, and so do the residents of Shaw want to know, is why are we bottom of the list?
Well, how many postal votes do you have? How many postal votes do you have? Sorry, Mark. I'm not. You know, I'm not. I know I'm mocking, but I think there's an element of truth to that.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? What are, you know, what are? I mean, my medical practice moved out of Shaw. I've got, half of Shaw's got a trait to Royton, if you can get an appointment, that is. And the people who took over our current medical practice, one of them called the Village Practice, and there's another one. One of them has dubious connections to what used to be the CCG.
Yeah.
And they specialise, and you go on the website and it says they specialise in setting up health practices in challenging
outrageous,
communities.
Outrageous, isn't it? It's just outrageous.
Yeah. That's what Shaw is. We're a rundown town. No, but like I say, development, yes. Exploitation, no. And there's a lot of people who particularly in Crompton, who are suffering the negativity of that, of throwing up ill thought through housing schemes on unsuitable land with unsuitable
access,
points, and these people's these people people who retired, who
their lives are blighted and they'll die. The lives will be cut short, I think, Mark. You know, because the quality of life suffers when you're old, and you know it's not fair what's been done. And you know the reasoning, Mark. The reasoning isn't to do with these are suitable houses in these locations. The reasoning is council tax revenue, knowing that if they're building these places, there's a low reliance on council tax services and a higher return for the council, because they're spending the money badly and they're desperately selling assets and building houses with low council tax sort of services requirements, and they're desperately trying to keep themselves in the black.
It's not a sustainable business model.
No, it's not. It's
just
no.
It's just not. It's going to come crashing down at some point. You know, the council's going to get bankrupt. You know, we're going to have to. People don't want vanity projects. They want the basics. They don't want a new massive shopping centre or whatever it might be in the town centre.
What is a council doing getting involved in running a shopping centre when it can't even run the council? What is a council
No.
getting involved in running a shopping centre?
You know, I mean, you don't have to check, you know, to see when the spindle loss made a profit.
Yeah.
But the fact you wouldn't have bought it for the fact you'd said, yeah, I'll give you $5 for it, wouldn't you? Or one of these like pound thing deals.
My friends who are who are property developers, big property developers in the business, you know, they buy shopping centres. They say, Raj, what would normally have happened is we'd have took it off them just to wipe their debt. Never mind, you know, and balance the books. We won't have paid them a penny. We'd have took it off them for nothing, and they'd have left happy.
Yeah. A negativity like that, you just want this, and they've obviously been sold. I mean, but I couldn't imagine it'd be quite hard. Sean Fielding up against them, you know, this business proposal, and this is the latest one. It's just there's no end to it, is there?
You know, I'm not a fan of Sean Fielding's at all. But what would have ordinarily happened in that set of circumstances is the due diligence would have been done by the senior council officers, Helen Lockwood and Dr. Carolyn Wilkins, you know, the leader of the council, the former chief executive of Oldham Council on 250,000, and her deputy, Helen Lockwood, who was on about 150. Both have scarpered since. Both have scarpered.
Yeah, well, there's other gravy trains out there, isn't there? The COVID thing was I think one of them jumped on the track and trace, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's £20 billion well spent.
Carolyn Wilkins wasn't.
So it's endemic everywhere, but you know, we'll stick to basics. We'll help as many people as we can within our community, irrespective of what football team support.
Well, you and I had a chat whilst I got it working before, and then it messed up. But you know, I'm a long-suffering Liverpool fan, Mark, and you've never held that against me, and I've never held your Manchester City allegiance against you.
I think the beauty about football allegiances is there's good times and there's bad times.
Yeah. And both our teams have suffered.
Getting through the bad times, getting through the bad times helps you appreciate the value of the good times.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly where we'll leave it, because that's that's certainly our mantra.
It's a good place, isn't it? Yeah, you know, we know what it was like, and we want it back. Yeah, we want our communities back to be the thriving. You want them back to be the thriving communities they once were. And you know what? We know they can be. This model of poverty and deprivation that they sell isn't a true reflection of us of any of us.
Oldham Council uses poverty and deprivation as its biggest selling point.
Yeah.
To try and generate handouts from central government. Yeah. I don't see it that way, and neither do people I associate with. We believe deprivation and poverty is not acceptable, okay? And together we work to get out of that, okay? And it's not about, like I say, it's not about handouts. It's about generating revenue. It's about generating investment. It's turning, and it happens. You know, they're going about Upper Mill, how great that is. The reason Upper Mill's so oldie-worldy is because nobody wanted to live there in the past.
Yeah.
It's only the past 20, 30 years it's sort of like become the place to be. Before then, it was like something of a Holvis advert, you know, and whereas Shaw at the time was probably far more popular. So these things can change. They have cycles, but there has to be a plan, and there has to be a will, okay?
And
at the moment, we've got
needs. Sorry, mate.
We've got needs.
There's got to be people like you. There've got to be brave people like you who come forward and are willing to risk themselves.
Just one last thing. You have what they call the Oldham Council's intelligence and something or other department, where basically they do loads of research and justify how good Oldham Council is. And they did one for Shaw. Every area gets its little plan. It says how many people live there, what age they are, how old they are, blah, blah, blah. And it says Shaw has a satisfaction rate of 77%. 77% of people in Shaw are satisfied. But it never said or quantified who them 77% were. They could have asked 7 people if you do the math. So, and what we found, it was about some survey they'd done in 2013. 2013. It didn't say how many respondents they'd got. It didn't say what questions they asked. It just said
they take us
and
for
that's
fools,
good enough
Mark.
for them.
They've been taking us for
That's
fools
good
for
enough for them.
generations.
37%.
Yeah.
Well done, Oldham Council.
Yeah. Mark,
but we'll endeavour to persevere.
All I've got is nothing but positives on my Fred next to me, wishing you the best of luck. They'll vote for you. People who are saying they live in Shaw Crompton will vote for you. They'll campaign for you. So you know, I can't wait. I can't wait for May, because I know you guys are going to take out the Lib Dems in Shaw Crompton. You might not get all 6, you might not get 3, but you're going to dent them in a way. You're going to dent them.
I think once we get the momentum, and you know, even if we get 2 or 3, 4, whatever.
Well, Mark Wilkinson has come on to say hello to you. You know, council, and when Failsworth Independents got in, they got in with just 1 first. You know, it was just 1, and now this time they go in where they're going to go for all 6. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Kath and Mark, and you know, and their team, I've nothing but admiration for them. I mean, specifically what they've done. We're not a political party, they are. But if that works for them, and more importantly, it works for the people of Failsworth, great. You know, it's going to be about it'll be horse trading. Is the way we envisage it. Is the fact that, like, if you've got enough independent groups, then we will have to sit down and negotiate.
You're going to have to work together.
Exactly.
And you will work together. I've always found, and I said this to some of the Royton independents at one point. With all these independents, how are you going to get any work done? And what I said to him, Mark, was, in my experience, when decent people, talented people are put in the room together from different places, they figure it out.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. Because in that room, there will be a common thread, and that is for the benefit of the people.
You want better for the people, and you're there to serve your people.
That's it. Yeah. We can't all have everything, but I certainly think in terms of resources and allocation, you know, if we're not sharing it about specifically on political lines and agendas, I just genuinely think we would have a better time going forward.
And my ask of you, which is my ask of all of the independents and anyone who I support or ask, you know, for space with me, it's nothing for me, Mark. All I want is the support for a public inquiry into the cover up of the gang rape of our town children. That's the only thing I want people to support.
Well, you know, for those who, and you know, like I say, when I first came across your ad, I was extremely sceptical, because obviously the magnitude of the issues you were highlighting. But you still broadcasted. Yeah. Nobody sued you.
No, 5 years.
You know, they can try and censor you.
Yeah.
But they certainly can't. You know, these things haven't gone away. I would say it's a known fact. We're not making this up. This isn't libelous.
Yeah.
Howard Site leaked a resident's freedom of information request with personal details on it to a politically motivated journalist who, although he's, you know, seems to take umbrage with how you try to fund your activities.
I'm community funded, Mark. I'm community funded, and I'm proud of it. Yeah.
Well, he has a little donate page on that. It just makes you wonder who does press that donate button from time to time, doesn't it? Because if you read the content and the angles of his insidious words, then it can only lead me to believe one thing.
Yeah, same.
It's not. Yeah, there's a motive.
And I don't give him as much attention, Mark, because he, in the scheme of things, he's a distraction. This is our town. These are our communities.
He spends more time talking to himself. I mean, I get it from. I read the odd one for comedy element, should we say? But you know, even Mark Kenyon seems to have dropped him and from his latest poster boy. But there we go. It's you know, we have to live in this town. He doesn't.
Yeah.
I know they criticise you, but for where your residence and whatnot. But the truth is, it's where your heart is.
Well, it's very clear, Mark. You talked about Upper Mill. I couldn't afford to live in Upper Mill when I moved this way a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, and Mosley was cheaper. I needed a train station. Yeah, I needed a train station. And my daughter's up here,
Yeah.
Mark. I mean, what am I meant to do?
Yeah.
You know, what would you have a decent man
No.
do? You know? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, I'm, you know, totally on the same page. But like I say, it's been a journey, should we say, since that.
Well, I apologise, Mark, for opening your eyes, you know, and because, you know, once they're open, they can't be shut again. But I'm extremely...
I can just about sleep at night.
I'm extremely humbled, really, Mark, that you know, you've you know, you looked at it, you worked it, figured it out for yourself, but you went one further and you thought, I'm going to step forward and brave enough to want to change things for, you know, for my community, so it is better than they deserve better. Our people deserve better.
And the beauty is we'll do it together, the residents of Shaw. Yeah. You know, we're not relying on party officials. We're not relying on our leaflets being printed back. You know, we're relying on the truth, and we're relying on, like I say, the things that are going on around us. We don't make excuses for it. We highlight it and we're highlighting it, and then we're going to try and do something about it. It's not that big a concept if you think about it. I just don't think these people who are our current councillors are so wrapped up in the politics of it all. I mean, it's like that question Dave Murphy asked. I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, it just doesn't sound like something he'd come out with. It sounds like someone who's giving that question to personally attack this person. And there's only another, and that just leads me to, there's only one name comes up when I think that. Yeah. And we both know who that is.
Mark, thank you very, very much for bravely coming forward, getting in touch with me, and my offer to the other independents and even the Conservatives who are commenting, even the Labour Party if they want this, you know, come on. If you disagree with what I've got to say or any of the points you know, I figured this out over the last 5 years because I never thought of asked myself those questions, but I think it's very clear by now. I'm not a coward, and I don't read a pre-written script of someone else. Come on, and let's have these conversations. Sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we won't, but the people of our town deserve this level of dialogue, you know. And thank you, Mark. Thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Listen, a pleasure, Roger. Thanks for your support. Everyone, you as well. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks, Mark. Bye. Marc Hince, candidate for the Shaw and Crompton Independents. A community action group is what he essentially described. They're not a political party. They're a community action group. And indeed, my offer to the Failsworth Independents, the Coldhurst Independents, the Royton Independents, the Saddleworth Independents, once they get their act together. Have I said any of us? Even the Conservatives. At what point will you people come to the realisation that these transmissions have transformed the Metropolitan Borough of Oldham? No matter what you've tried to do, these transmissions and the political analysis and insight I provide and the platform I give to decent people. They called Marc Hince a racist. There's no racism in him whatsoever. Decent family people who want better for their communities. And indeed, Gary, well done. Marc Hince is exactly where it should be left. For those of you who find value in these transmissions, you're on Facebook with me right now. Please just press the share button. It's at the bottom of the video. It says like, comment and share. You've all been commenting. At the very least, press the share button. If you can afford to do so, buy me a coffee, buy me a samosa, whatever whatever you want. It keeps these transmissions going. I'm hoping to be back tomorrow morning, is my intention. I'm taking my goddaughter out for lunch tomorrow afternoon. She's got herself suspended or something from school, so I need to have one of those sorts of conversations. So later in the afternoon I will be out, but I'm hoping to come back about 10 o'clock in the morning and do a transmission to catch up on all the other things I've got. And I've got some tasty morsels. So the idea is 10 o'clock in the morning for those of you who are around. And My final request, I am in court, Manchester Court, the Manchester Magistrates Court, behind the John Rylands Library. All those years, I mean, it's a lovely library. I never thought I'd end up in the courts behind the library, but such is the twist of fate in life. I ordinarily spend my time in a library rather than a courtroom. But please, if you are free, 9:30. It won't start until 10 o'clock, so you don't have to get there for 9:30. I do, but you don't. It is a case management hearing. It is likely to be the last case management hearing before the trial, which is scheduled, I think, very early February, 2nd and 3rd, or 1st or 2nd. I'm not quite sure. And what we have got as our defence team is our index of all of our evidence. And we would like, I'm very clear, if there's 20 people sat there, if the courtroom is packed, then it becomes very difficult for a judge. Justice should take place in public for a reason. It becomes very difficult for a judge to deny our evidence and our index. So, please, if you are free, I am being criminalised for no other reason than that I have stood up for each and every one of you. Have a very good evening. Good night.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.